You know, the United States of America was the greatest country before Trump, and it's the greatest country now after Trump. The white supremacists want to go back. They want to go back to the days when it was legal to own slaves.
You are about to be entertained by the ape, the young man who has become a legend in his own time. You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right, everybody, welcome. It's about a minute after the hour of 7 p.m. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program, heard here on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, blogtalkradio.com, and TikTok. And I got kicked off of TikTok last week. I'll get into that. You know what? I will get into that a little bit later on in the program. But anyway, welcome, everybody. Beautiful day in the neighborhood. Rained a little bit this morning, but it's just fine. Right now, lots going on. Man, you need two sets of eyes to pay attention to everything that's going on right now, especially with the Trump nonsense and all that's going on with him. The big ugly bill is going to be ugly for a lot of people. I'll get into that a little bit later on in the program. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Did I see Ronald McCready this afternoon in Orange, New Jersey? Did I see my brother from another mother, Ronald McCready, in Orange, New Jersey this afternoon? So if he comes on, I'm pretty sure he'll be here. If he comes on, I'm going to find out. Anyway, welcome, everybody. A couple of minutes past the hour, Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. And so I guess the last week I got kicked off of TikTok. I don't want to share that with you guys. Kicked off. Cut my program off. I was doing the program on TikTok, and they cut me off. Let me see if they're going to do it today. Yeah, the nerve, the colossal gall for TikTok to cut me, of all people, off last week.
Everyone thinks they're cute and pretty, right?
Kicked me off. I still don't know. I'm supposed to be able to go back on today. I don't know. I don't see live yet. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to go back on there live. But wait a minute. Let's see if I can go on. Okay, no, I can't go on Facebook. I can't go on YouTube. They kicked me off of YouTube last week because I talked about blacks and Hispanics for Trump. I was about to get into that, and I didn't say N-word or S-word or anything like that. I just said blacks and Hispanics for Trump, and I got bumped off of TikTok. And all the coochie and the titties and the butt cracks and the coochie prints and all the stuff you see on TikTok, I got kicked off for saying blacks and Hispanics, that I was going to get after blacks and Hispanics for Trump. Now, so because of that, my live access is suspended. It says I can go live and join it live as a guest starting from July 10th, 2025. Now, today is July 10th. I know today's July 9th, I believe. Okay, so wait. Okay, today is today is July 10th. Okay, well, why can't I go on TikTok? So anyway, I was going to get into the people that are suffering now, Hispanics especially, who like black folks depend on Section 8 and welfare and WIC and all of that stuff. Because I used to do security in the supermarket. And I saw a lot of people in there, blacks and Hispanics alike, and they were, getting the Cheerios and the milk because when you're using the WIC card, you can't buy anything name brand with the WIC card. And they were in there buying stuff with the WIC thing. So, with Trump cutting $1 trillion off the social programs, Medicaid, WIC, all of that stuff is in there in the social programs, WIC, SNAP, all of that stuff is in there. So that's going to be a problem. You know, we're looking at a disaster that's coming up. Anyway, I did get kicked off of TikTok because I was going to get after the blacks and Hispanics who voted for Trump. I was coming for them. So I got kicked off. I got kicked off of TikTok. I was supposed to be able to go back on TikTok today, but it appears that I am still suspended off of TikTok. Even though they say I can go back July 10th. Now, I don't know. It says 1934. I don't know what time that is. But anyway, yeah, so I get kicked out of TikTok. Now, any of y'all go on TikTok, you see all the coochie and the titties and the coochie prints and all kinds of stuff on TikTok. People getting cussed out, shot, you know, major accidents, people, you know, you see all kinds of stuff on TikTok. So they're going to kick me off because I wanted to say something about blacks and Hispanics who voted for Trump, who are going to suffer now. Who are going to suffer. Because I read a story about a gentleman who voted for Trump, went to Canada for a visit, came back to America or attempted to come back to America, was told he could not come back. Now, the reason why he couldn't come back, I mean, he had a green card, but the reason why he couldn't come back is because like 20 years ago, he had some kind of incident with marijuana possession, which the case was dismissed. He never even had to do any time. But, you know, that stuck on his jacket. So when he came back to America, the people, the Homeland Security and those folks, they looked, because when you come back to America, even if you're a citizen, they're going to look to see if you did anything. And if you did anything, you may not be able to come back, even as a citizen. Now, I haven't heard that people who were citizens were told that they couldn't come back to America, but this man had a green card and he got into some trouble like 20 years ago, nothing violent, some marijuana issue. He had a suspended sentence. And so he voted for Trump. He went to Canada, and on his way back from Canada, the customs enforcement, ICE, they said, no, you can't come back. And they said, now, if you try to come back again, now we're going to let you go this time. But if you try to come back to America again, now the man is in Canada right now. He went to Canada. And see, that's what I'm leery about leaving the country right now. Even me as a black man born and raised in America, birth certificate, no green card, but still, you just don't know. But anyway, the man, he was from Maine, and he went into Canada, voted for Trump, came back, tried to come back into America. The customs enforcement, ICE, said no. So now he can't come back to America because he had a green card, but he did have a record because of the marijuana possession. So if you leave the United States of America and you try to come back and you got a record now, I haven't heard them doing that to anybody who was born here. But I did hear about this particular story, and he's not the only one. People who have green cards, people who are citizens, who have some type of criminal history, whether it's, whether the history is nonviolent or not allowed to come back into the United States of America. So like I said, me right now, I'm leery about leaving the country. I am. Even though I'm a citizen, I was born here. I don't have no green card. I got a birth certificate. But I'm leery because look what happened with birthright citizenship. Trump was allowed to tamper with birthright citizenship. So, they could do something with that. So I'm going to get into that a little bit later on in the program. And also, I'm going to get into the Jeffrey Epstein. The Trump DOJ got rid of Jeffrey Epstein's records. So we know there was some highfalutin, high-profile ex-presidents, wink, wink, who were involved in the Jeffrey Epstein situation. We know that. I know that. And I know you guys know that. That Jeffrey Epstein was killed in jail by the powers that be, because he had evidence that some really important people, Donald Trump probably being one of them, was involved and much worse than what Diddy's being accused of. So yeah, so we'll get into that. But I did want to talk about TikTok. I got kicked off of TikTok. I'm still, upset about that, getting kicked off of TikTok. And they said that my access is suspended until a certain time. Today at 7:34. So at 7:34, I'll be allowed to go back on TikTok. Yeah, I mentioned that I was going to talk about the blacks and Hispanics who voted for Trump, and they said my violation reasons hate speech and hateful behaviors. Hate speech and hateful behaviors. But if a girl want to come on here and show her snatch, she can do that, or wear a thong or whatever. She can do that. With me, I'm restricted in regards to what I say. It's just ridiculous. 12 minutes after now. Oh, yeah. And by the way, we're going to go off the air. We're going off the air after today. We're going off the air. We won't be back until August because the show needs a reboot, a real reboot. So we're going to have, better background, better graphics, better subjects, a better way to carry the program. We probably won't be on StreamYard anymore. So, we're going to, take some few weeks off. And I'm already looking at a content creator. I mean, there's a whole new program. So I'm looking forward to that. We'll be taking care of that over the next several weeks. So we'll be back by, I think it's August, the first week. Well, today is the 10th. So we'll probably come back. No, we will. I'll give you a date of definitely when we're going to come back. But it won't be until August. So it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, August 7th. The Ron Kelly Show will be back August 7th. So that's what we're going to do. Thank you, Arnetta Marshall, for your input. August. So August, after today, the Ron Kelly Show will go off the air, and we're going to rebuild, reboot, reimagine, and that doesn't mean that I'll be on. Ms. Ronald McCready. Ronald McCready, I saw you today in Orange. I believe that was you. If it wasn't you, you got a twin brother, Ronald McCready. I saw you today in Orange, New Jersey. If that wasn't you, you must have a twin brother. But good to see you, brother. Good to see you. Yeah. So in a couple. Yeah. So we're gonna come back August. What did I say? August the 7th. The Ron Kelly Show will be returning. So after today, we're going off the air. Now, I'm not going to be completely gone. I mean, I'll be coming on and doing my lives and spots and commenting. See, this is why we need to do that, because Arnetta Marshall is saying that I'm frozen. I can see myself. I'm moving. So I don't know. She's saying that I'm frozen. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, all right. Tell you what we'll do. We'll take a break and come back with more. The Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. And it's on blogtalkradio.com, the Ron Kelly Show.com. Yes, indeed, I am the man. What a news cycle this is. This guy has got to go. Trump has got to go. George Floyd snuffed out by this police officer who's supposed to be serving and protecting people.
It's the Ron Kelly Show.
All right, everybody, we're back. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program, and it's on blogtalkradio.com, the RonKellyShow.com. Let me see. And this portion of the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program is brought to you by, if I can find it, where'd they go? Oh, yeah, ta-da. Oh, no ta-da. Okay. Yeah, see, we need to take care of that, so we're going to do that. But the Ron Kelly Show is brought to you in part by Amica and Portfield Transportation for 45 years. Just a few years before I was born. 45 years, Amica and Portfield Transportation has been your source for safe, reliable transportation to and from your destination, parochial schools, public schools, trips to the casino, family reunions, medical, you name it, with Amica and Porterfield can handle it. So give them a call, 908-753-6423, 908-753-6423, located in Plainfield, New Jersey, 307 Arlington Avenue. It's 908-753-6423, 908-753-6423. Amica and Porterfield Transportation is your source for safe, reliable transportation to and from your destination. So, yeah, so it's 18 minutes past the hour. So someone is saying that I'm frozen. I'm not sure about that. See, this is why I'm coming off the air. See, this is why. We're gonna come off the air and get this thing straightened out. You know what I mean? So so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna come off the air and we're gonna get this puppy straightened out. We're gonna get it straightened out. Anyway, everybody, it's just 19 minutes past the hour. So yeah, so what happened today? What happened today? What happened today? So the Trump administration, right? Now we always felt like I always felt like Trump, and even though I liked Bill Clinton. So Trump, the DOJ, the Department of Justice, the Trump Department of Justice has gotten rid of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Jeffrey Epstein was the alleged child molester who was arrested, the millionaire hedge fund manager who was a child molester. It was himself and Ghislaine Maxwell, a lady who's in prison right now, for that. She was allegedly a recruiter, and she recruited the girls for Jeffrey Epstein. You know, and some of you know that, for those who follow the news and stuff, that Jeffrey Epstein was found dead in his jail cell shortly after he was put in jail. Now, he was supposed to be on a suicide watch. Jeffrey Epstein was supposed to be on a suicide watch. He's supposed to be checked on every half hour. Every half hour. So you mean to tell me that, they just forgot? He was probably the most prominent, the most well-known prisoner that they had. So you mean to tell me that the two guards that were guarding Jeffrey Epstein just forgot? We forgot? No, they didn't forget. Because there were some big heads that was going to roll if Jeffrey Epstein ratted them out. Bill Clinton may have been one, allegedly. I don't want to get sued. Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, some other big names big names in the TV and political, financial businesses, some big names. So just yesterday, I believe it was. And see, now Trump was asked a question. Trump was asked a question about Jeffrey Epstein. So during the cabinet meeting Tuesday, a reporter asked Pam Bondi is Attorney General, about Epstein. Now, as she started to reply, Trump interrupted and said, "Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?" Trump says, "This guy has been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things, and you people are still talking about this guy, this creep. Do you want to waste the time?" He says. I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy and what happened in Texas. So earlier this week, the Department of Justice, and see, when we come back, when I come back from the break, we'll have video of all of the stuff I'm talking about. We will have the video to back up what I'm saying. So I'm excited. It's going to be great. We're investing a considerable amount of money, and in turn, hopefully we'll get a considerable amount of sponsors. But earlier this week, Department of Justice and the FBI, Kash Patel, this idiot, announced the results of a joint review of investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. And they concluded that this convicted sex offender had died by suicide in a New York jail in 2019 while awaiting further sex charges. Now, everybody knows that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. I mean, you have to be a complete idiot not to understand that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered by the powers that be, because Jeffrey Epstein, and they saw pictures of Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump. Yes, and this is before the AI stuff. Because now you can't really believe anything because of the AI. AI makes pictures move. It makes babies talk. It's all kinds of stuff. So you don't know what to believe now. But the FBI is concluding, the Department of Justice is concluding that Jeffrey Epstein died. By suicide. Now, come on. Lamar Gates says, "Do I think there's an actual list other than the flight logs?" Now, Lamar Gates, are you talking about the flight logs going back and forth to that island? The fantasy island, I guess you can call it. Clear that up for me, because I'm not unsure what you're asking me. Do I think there's an actual list other than flight logs? Well, those flight logs are probably part of the evidence. Those flight logs are probably. Yeah, I think that I think that there were some humongous names, ex-presidents, corporate honchos, highfalutin political people, possibly even Donald Trump, who were involved in that. Because you see what happened. Prince Andrew was involved, and see how they swept that under the rug. Prince Andrew was actually involved in it. Queen Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, banished Prince Andrew from any public affair, any public activity, because Prince Andrew was a child molester. I mean, let's not get that mixed up. I'm going to say that Prince Andrew was a child molester. Ronald McCready says they're lying through their teeth. Trump is on that list. Yeah, he is on that list, brother. That's why they're covering up. You were exactly right. You're exactly right. Donald Trump is on that list. Him, I believe Bill Clinton, and some highfalutin big names, big name people, big name CEOs and senators and all kinds of people, but highfalutin, big name, big bucks people are on that list. And that's why they're covering it up. Lamont Gates says, do you think the coroner also lied about Epstein's death? Lamont Gates, that was easy. That part was easy. That it was easy to get. That was probably the easiest part, because you had to get the security guards, you had to get the corrections officers to turn their heads, right? So getting the coroner to lie when you got Trump and Bill Clinton and allegedly, because I don't want to get sued because I don't have any money as it is. I mean, I have liability insurance for the show, but I don't even want to go into that. But yeah, I think that was the easy part for the coroner to lie. It was all a big, because you got Kash Patel. Kash Patel is Trump, Pam Bondi. Trump picked loyalists for his cabinet. Loyalists, people who are not going to challenge him. Those are the people he picked for his cabinet. Loyalists. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of State, Mario, whatever his name is, Pam Bondi, Attorney General, Kash Patel, FBI. Kash Patel, no law enforcement experience whatsoever. No. So he picks loyalists. So these people are going to go along with whatever he says. He didn't pick anybody who had an independent brain. Nobody. He picked people who he thought would listen to him and would not challenge him. It was like becoming the president and putting your brothers and sisters as your cabinet members. But anyway, yeah, Lamont Gates, I do think that the coroner lied about Epstein's death. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. He did lie. And that was an easy one. You got, these big name, big bucks, deep pockets people, staring down at you. You're gonna, it won't be the first time the government lied about something. The government's been lying about stuff forever. Obama, Biden, George Bush 1, George Bush 2, Clinton, Jimmy Carter. The government don't tell you the exact truth. During the Cuban Missile Crisis, it wasn't telling you that we were seconds away from being nuked. They didn't tell us that. So Lamont Gates says, do you think we should use or see evidence about that? We're not going to see. We're not going. They already tossed it. They got rid of the evidence. Because if they showed us the evidence, Lamont Gates, it would be completely contrary to what we've been told already. So we're not going to see any evidence. The only people who are going to see the evidence is the Trump folks, Trump people. We're not going to see, because because look what happened with the two security guards, the two corrections officers who were supposed to be watching Jeffrey Epstein. Supposed to be watching him. Ronald McCready says the government never. No, they never give you the whole truth. So it's just safe to assume murder. Yeah. Lamont Gates. Ronald McCready says the government never gives you the truth and the whole truth. No. I mean, in some cases they can't tell us because they don't want to start a panic. Like if there's a meteor headed toward Earth, we're not going to know until it hits. Well, it's shortly before it hits. They're not going to tell us because they don't want, they don't want everything to break down, which it would if there's something like that was to happen. Lamont Gates says so. It's safe to assume. Yeah, it's safe to assume murder. Yeah, it is. Yeah. Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. He was murdered because he had evidence on so many people. And Ghislaine, assassinated. He was assassinated. He was murdered. They found him in his cell. He was on suicide watch. He was the biggest prisoner at the time that they had, the biggest name, the biggest, Jeffrey Epstein, child molester, Wall Street industrialist, multi-millionaire. And they find him in his cell. I mean, come on, give me a break. He was killed. It was point blank. That I will say. No, allegedly. He was killed. Now, by who? I don't know. But I think that Trump may have been a visitor to 3 Mile Island. Trump may have been there. I believe that Trump did go there. I believe that Trump was involved in that. That's why they're stuffing it under the rug. They announced yesterday that they're closing the book on Jeffrey Epstein, and nobody's going to see the results of the investigation. And why nobody's going to see the results of the investigation? Because too many heads will roll if we do see the results of the investigation. Too many heads are going to roll. Big names, huge names, because they already had Prince Andrew, who is not so much a big name not so much a big name here in America, but he's a huge name in Great Britain. And Prince Andrew managed to slither his way out of it, but he was involved in it, and he was messing around with underage girls. Prince Andrew. Yes, he was. He was the only real name that got out. It was Prince Andrew. And they probably paid the girl off, whoever it was, who was 16 or so at the time, who said that she was flipped around by Prince Andrew. See, because a lot of these people, that's why you can't, put people on pedestals. Because you don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. So you can't put people on pedestals. Ronald McCready says the government friend. Well, yeah. The people whose hands were dirty were the ones that killed. They got together and said, you know what, we got to shut this guy up because he's going to ruin all of us. Which he would have, because Jeffrey Epstein wasn't going to, he was going to try to make a deal. Yeah. He was going to try to make a deal with the government. Or even if he didn't, they had to be sure that he wouldn't be able to. And the only way for that to do that was to kill him. So that's what they did. Yeah, Prince Andrew. Jeffrey Epstein was a global name. And the lady's in jail right now. The lady who was supposed to be a recruiter, she's in prison right now. And her family has plenty of money. Lamont Gates says, realistically, how do you know your assertions are accurate? Well, if I go outside Lamont Gates and I come back in and I'm wet, what are you going to assume? He was gonna snitch. Exactly. Yeah, I believe that I'm accurate. because it doesn't, because the way it went down, it didn't make sense, Lamont Gates. It didn't make sense. The man was on suicide watch. He could have brought down so many people by telling, because he had that island, and they was on an island, and they didn't have to worry about nobody coming on that island. That's why Jeffrey Epstein had that island, because he didn't have to worry about the police busting through the door, because he had an island. And that's why he bought that island, because he was doing stuff on that island with young girls. So look, so he buys an island. He's out there on this island. He's been accused of being a child molester. So he buys an island, and he does his dirty work on that island. Gets caught somehow and arrested. Now, Jeffrey Epstein was already a known child, known to mess with young girls. He was known for that. Jeffrey Epstein was known for that. So when he got caught and he got locked up, and all his friends and the people who, Prince Andrew and all of them who were on that island with him, running around with them little young girls, they was like, oh, wait a minute. There's a chance. It's just like, the mob. Y'all remember, the Sopranos, when somebody got caught snitching, what'd they do? They killed him. And they didn't even really, and all they had to do is have a strong suspicion of snitching, and they would kill him. And Ronald McCready, Jeffrey Epstein was going to snitch. He was going to snitch. And the people who were involved with that said, oh, we can't let him do that. So the guards just forgot that he was there. They just forgot. Yeah, I know, Lamont Gates. How do we know that the people that you talk to on NGE, how do we know those near-death experiences are real? We don't know. We don't know if the near-death experiences are real that you talk about on your podcast. We don't know. We don't know, and you don't know. And I don't know if this is absolutely 100% true, but I believe that it is based on the circumstances. Do I believe making an assumption on Facebook is equal to? I believe that making this. Yeah, I believe that, and nobody on Facebook is going to disagree with me. Like besides you, nobody's going to disagree with me that I'm wrong. Most people already believe that Jeffrey Epstein got killed. You can ask anybody who knows who Jeffrey Epstein is. Now, people who don't know who he is, they may not know. They won't have no idea what you're talking about. But people who know who Jeffrey Epstein is and know what the situation is will tell you that they believe that Jeffrey Epstein was murdered. Correct. Although Mays have had the same experiences, we have no evidence or testimony. No, we don't. But it's safe I believe that it's safe to assume he wasn't there that long. He wasn't there that long. I have to look that up, Ronald McCready, but he wasn't there that long before he got bumped off. He wasn't there. They knew right away. The plan was put in motion when Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. The plan to eliminate him was put in motion right there because they knew that Jeffrey Epstein was going to crack under the pressure and make a deal. And the names and and that was during the Biden administration. So, Biden would have went all in on that, So, yeah. So I believe that the second that Jeffrey Epstein was arrested, the plan was put in motion to murder him. I believe that 100% without a doubt. I believe that. Okay. All right. So let's take a break and come back with more of the program. I did want to talk about the BBB, the big, beautiful bill. It's going to be a big, beautiful bust. We'll talk about that and more in just a few minutes. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. And it's on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, used to be TikTok, and blogtalkradio.com. Yes, indeed, I am the man. What a news cycle this is. This guy has got to go. Trump has got to go. George Floyd snuffed out by this police officer who's supposed to be serving and protecting people.
It's the Ron Kelly Show.
And welcome back, everybody. It's about 17 or 16 and a half minutes before the hour. It's the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. And kicked off of TikTok, but still on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, blogtalkradio.com. And yeah, it got kicked off of TikTok. They kicked me off with all the coochie and all the titties and everything you see on TikTok. They had a nerve to kick me off because of something that I was about to say or something that I was engaged in saying, and they kicked me off. So with all the violence and all the, all the sexual stuff and the titties bouncing and the booties shaking and the twerking and the print of the vagina and all of this stuff, and they kicked me off of off of YouTube. They kicked me off of TikTok. So okay, I'm supposed to go back. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to go back to TikTok. Maybe I'll just broadcast the last 15 minutes of the show on TikTok, because as of 7:34 today, allegedly, I am supposed to be allowed to go back on TikTok. So let me just see if I can put the last 13, 14 minutes of the program on TikTok. The only way Lamont Gates' consensus can never be used. And of course not, Lamont. Come on. You don't have to be a lawyer to figure that one out. But again, it makes sense. 1 + 1 is 2. And it makes sense that it makes sense when you think about it. It makes sense. It makes sense, Lamont Gates. You know. Now I'm supposed to be. Let's see what we got going on here. It's about 15 minutes before the hour of 15 minutes before the hour of 8 o'clock right now. So yeah, Lamont Gates, we know that, you know, look, I believe, and many other people believe, that Jeffrey Epstein was killed. It was a plot put together. I mean, how many black bag undercover stuff, how many regime change, how many countries, third world countries, leaders have been snuffed out so America could put the person that they want. I mean, this stuff happens like all the time. The black bag, stuff that with people that don't have any social security numbers, you know, they're completely off the grid. I mean, come on. I think that Jeffrey Epstein was killed because Jeffrey Epstein was the highest profile prisoner that they had in the Manhattan Correctional Center. Manhattan Corrections, MCC. And he was there, and he was supposed to be on suicide watch. Suicide watch, Jeffrey Epstein. And he allegedly killed himself. Now, you can dummy up a coroner's report. You think they didn't pay off that coroner or tell him, you know, look, you know, Lamont Gates, you should have went to law school. Yeah. Well, you know, I'm not always going to say what you guys want, but yeah, I think that he clearly, based on the evidence, if you follow the breadcrumbs, you're going to find that loaf of bread. Jeffrey Epstein, I believe, was killed, and I'm not the only one that believes that. A whole millions of other people believe that. I'm not by myself with that, Lamont Gates. You know, a lot of people think that Jeffrey Epstein was killed by a consortium of the powers that be, ex-presidents, corporate honchos, maybe even movie studio people who all have these predilections for young girls. The younger, the better. And just like Jeffrey Epstein did. Now, you look at Jeffrey Epstein's history, you see him taking pictures with a lot of different people. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that those people engaged in sexual deviancy with young girls, but you know, I'm pretty sure right now they wish they had not taken those pictures with him. So you can't take selfies with everybody. Anyway, everybody, Lamont Gates was pushing me to say I believe, you know. Lamont Gates must be an advocate for Jeffrey Epstein. Anyway, it's just about 12 minutes before the hour. So I'm going to squeeze this in about, I got to get this in about the big, beautiful bill. Because, you know, some of y'all, a lot of y'all don't pay attention to the news. Like, I mean, I don't expect people to pay attention to the news like I do, because I pay attention to the news because I have people like Lamont Gates trying to correct me. So, I have to be on my P's and Q's when I'm doing my radio program for folks like Lamont Gates. You can check out Lamont Gates on his program, Near Death Experiences. I know you're not an advocate for Epstein, Lamont Gates. I know you're not. I don't want Stephanie to be mad at me. I know you're not an advocate for Epstein, but that's why I won't quit my day job, because I'm not really bad at telling jokes. Anyway, it's about 10 minutes before the hour of 8 o'clock. Ronald McCready says I have to pay attention. Yeah, even if you're not a podcaster or a radio personality like me, you still have to pay attention to the news. You got to know what's going on. You know, look what's happening in New York. They're trying to get rid of that guy, Mandani, who came out of nowhere and slaughtered everybody. Got 500,000 votes, came out of nowhere, 33 years old, assemblyman who nobody even knew who he was, comes out, runs for mayor against a big dog, Adrian Cuomo, former governor Adrian Adams, who was the council speaker. I mean, people who people knew. And he came out of nowhere. Zoran Mandami came out of nowhere and whipped everybody's ass. And now they're trying to knock Mandami off because he's a little bit too liberal, according to them. So we'll see what happens with that. But you got to pay attention to the news. And Ronald McCready says people are tired of, you get tired of Schumer and, I'm just done with the Democrats. I'm done. Schumer looks old. Hakeem Jeffries is afraid to say anything. Those days of being an upright citizen, that stuff is over. Those days are over. Now you got to get gully. You got to get dirt under your fingernails because those days of being an upstanding citizen are over. And the Democrats need to flip the script, just like I'm getting ready to do when I come off the air. I'm going to flip the script on my show, and the Democrats need to flip the script and stop playing because they're old and boring, and they're not saying anything to get their base excited. It's just assume that we're going to vote for you, and we do, and we get nothing in return. Now, voting for Trump wasn't the smart thing to do. If you wanted to revolt against the Democrats, voting for Trump surely wasn't the smart thing to do. Some of y'all thought, voted for Trump because you were PO'd at the Democrats. So some of y'all voted for Trump. And some of y'all who voted for Trump are now getting put out because your Section 8 is going to be gone. Your kids is going to be hungry because the big beautiful bill, so let's see. So no, I don't want to see that. So the big beautiful bill is no, I don't want to see that either. So Ronald McCready says, "Don't be done with the Democrats. Be done." Yeah, but the Democrats. But I hear you, Ronald McCready. But the Democrats are not doing anything. They're just sitting there. Now, if you want to impress me, let's start working on getting the Senate and the House back during the midterms. Midterms are next year. So if the Democrats can pull it, because both houses are close, the Senate is close. They don't have to gain a whole bunch of seats. And the House is close. They don't have to gain a whole bunch of seats for that either. So they need to use this big, beautiful bill nonsense, use, the people who lost their Medicaid, the people who are going to lose their Section 8, they're going to start charging interest again on student loans. Lamont Gates, I hope you paid yours off. They're going to start using, so all of these things are coming back. They're getting rid of the Consumer Protection Board. That was a place where they couldn't, where banks they couldn't charge you an arm and a leg for using their ATMs and all this stuff, or high credit, payday loans, all that stuff ran through there. So that stuff's going to come back now. Ronald McCready says the big, beautiful bill is going to destroy a little. Yeah, exactly. So it's not going to be the haves and the have-nots, like the rich and the poor. It's going to be the jobs, the job having and the jobless. That's what it's going to be, and you can expect crime to go up. Considerably, you can expect crime to go up. Ronald McCready says money. And see, the whole thing about it, the ugly truth about this whole black beautiful bill, big beautiful bill, is that the whole premise behind those cuts is to give that money to fill a gap that's going to be caused by giving tax breaks to the rich. Because that's the whole thing behind the beautiful bill. Give tax breaks to the rich. Don't be fooled by no tax on tips. Don't be fooled by that. It's a con job. No tax on unemployment. I do a lot of unemployment. I mean, not unemployment, but overtime. No tax on overtime. I do a lot of overtime, but I'm not fooled by that. Now, the thing with the overtime is that you'll be able to write off, like whatever your overtime is, you'll be able to claim that as a deduction. So you work $15,000 worth of overtime. You can knock that off your bill. You can knock that off your final taxable. You can knock that off your taxable income, in other words. So let's say you work $10,000 worth of overtime, when you get to the end of your tax return, or where it says you can make a deduction, you can deduct your total overtime off of your tax return. But during the year, you're still going to pay taxes on that overtime. So it's a scam. Trump is a bone. He threw us a bone with no meat on it. A milk bone. He didn't even give us like a chicken bone or a turkey bone. He gave us a bone with no meat. Ronald McCready says the rich don't need a tax break. Yeah. Well, Trump seems to think that they do. See, because the whole Trump is just doing what everybody wanted, all the rich people wanted him to do. Because the rich people control America. Don't get it messed up. Don't get it messed up. Yeah, there's more of us than them. But yeah, and Lamont Gates says, and it expires in 2028. So in January, February, whenever you file your taxes, whatever overtime that you made this year, because they do separate it on your W-2, I mean on your final on your final check stub, you'll see how much money that you made in overtime, and then you can deduct that amount off of your. So yeah, you might get a little something because you'll have a lower tax liability because your total income, your taxable income will be lower minus whatever overtime you did. So yeah, so it's nothing though, really. It's nothing, and it expires in 2 years. Now the tax cuts, the corporate tax cuts for the rich and famous are permanent. They're supposed to be permanent. Now, I don't know if somebody else, a Democrat, becomes president, if they're going to be able to revisit that. I don't know. Ronald McCready said, yeah. But the thing about, it's about a minute and 30 seconds left on the program. But see, the thing with Donald Trump is he told everybody what he was going to do. He said he was going to, but he lied about stopping the wars, because he didn't do that yet. He's causing war. But the stuff he talked about, the no tax on overtime. He talked about most of the stuff that he's doing right now. He talked about it, and everybody knew. It's not like he just came out of nowhere with all of this stuff after he got elected. He talked about it while he was running for office. And the blacks and the Hispanics fell for the banana in the tailpipe and voted him in, thinking that they was going to get something, and they got nothing. Lamont Gates says they can reverse tax on wealthy. Okay, all right. I didn't know that, Lamont Gates. Thank you for informing me that. Yeah, they can reverse the tax breaks on the wealthy. Okay. Yeah, I got it, Lamont Gates. I did say tax breaks. All right, everybody, 15 seconds to the program is over. I want to thank you so much for joining me. Lamont Gates, Ronald McCready, Arnetta Marshall, and so many other folks who I can't see on here. Thank you so much for joining me on the Ron Kelly Talk Radio program. We'll be back in August, but I'll be popping on from time to time to hit y'all up with a little information. So until then, everybody, take care of yourself, be well, and remember that it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. And we may not have it all together, but together we can certainly have it all. Thank you so much. I am out of